Welcome to another Sounds of ERA podcast. My name is Edward Johnson, a.k.a. Eddie, and I'm the president of InfoEd International. I'm here today with Hilda Alajajian. She is from the University of Vermont, and she is a grants resources specialist. And she's been there for about 11 years. Hello, Hilda.
Hi, Eddie. Good to talk with you today. The two categories I deal with the most are the new investigators. They don't know what those sources are a lot of times. Sometimes they do. But they're very eager to explore what out there, who out there might be interested in what they're doing. So we get a lot of investigators who are newly hired or who are brand new investigators in the academic world. I really enjoy working with them because they just think these databases are great. And then there are those that really don't need the database. But as you know, and as a lot of the investigators know now, some of their traditional tried and true sources are drying up. And especially with the federal funds also shrinking, I'm also finding that some of the more seasoned investigators who in the past haven't needed them are also coming to my door. So there's all kinds of faculty out there that are finding that the funding databases are really helpful. And grad students as well. When I first started, I was surprised how many grad students were coming to our office for funding opportunities. I found that they're starting students at a very young stage to getting them involved with research, and the undergrads, of course, are getting their support from faculty. The grad students, more and more, even if they're not instructed to find their own sources, they are taking courses for professional development that require that they start to learn about the tools that they might need in their professions, which include funding databases. I also regularly, every year, get asked to come to graduate seminars to just present the tools that are available for finding sponsors.
What's the smallest bucket of money that you might encourage somebody to go for? I mean, there's obviously, my daughter's in high school, and they can get these scholarships from parents of the music lovers of their town, and they get these things, and they're good, but some of them are $50-$100, and they're great to get, but they're not going to obviously contribute significantly towards their education. What amount of monies would you suggest people go looking for or not? If somebody walks into your office and says, I want $200 to buy some paper supplies, do you say, well, don't bother? Or if they say, I want a laptop, you might say, well, that might make some sense. Do you have a certain threshold or a cap where you would encourage them to engage a search engine, or do you really leave it up to them?
No, I think you make a good point there. The funding databases, at least from my perspective and experience, seem to be geared first and foremost for faculty, then for grad students, and then undergrads. And while there are some really great opportunities for students to get their either part of or entire education funded, they're very competitive. But that's not to say that that isn't still a reason to go for it. As far as the smaller pots of money, I would say for grad students, that's more of a chance you'll find something in the databases. But for undergraduate students, I would say most of the opportunities for undergrads are for them to go someplace to gain research experience. So if they already know they're going to go to an institution and they want money for something small related to their research, their best bet is not the funding database, but to look to their institution for some internal funding that might fit the bill.
So is there kind of a threshold, as I mentioned earlier, would say, well, generally if they're looking for money less than $2,000, it doesn't behoove you to search the database engine, or
I think I would lower to 1,000. This is off the top of my head, but I'm thinking that there are opportunities for grad students that would even fund $1,000 supplies or whatever it was that they were looking for. The really small stuff, and especially for undergrads, they're not going to find it in the funding databases.
What's the largest amount of money you've ever uncovered or discovered, if you will, for a student?
Oh, for a student.
Or a postdoc, or maybe a fellow, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of the big NSF and NIH competitions, which would fund up to $30,000 for a grad student to work on their PhD, $30,000 a year for living expenses plus their tuition. that's a lot of money for someone to get that kind of funding for their entire tenure for getting their graduate degree is a wonderful opportunity. And of course, very competitive too. I would say that sort of for students, that's probably the biggest that I've come across in working with students to find opportunities for them.
This has been fantastic, Hilda. I hope you're willing to do another one of these if time permits or there's things that are topical. So thanks again. This is fantastic.
All right, Eddie. Thanks for asking.